as we get into the trenches now, which is really where we are, we're really locked in at this point into the shift out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. In fact, the Aquarian energy is really taking over. And then what happens with that is that people just don't know what to do with it because it's an entirely new experience. And so right now we're having a lot of problems with people in power taking over to a gross degree and making life very, very hard for us who are just trying to get along from day to day. But this is going to pass. And by the way, Alan, it's always this way when we go out of one age and into the next one. And so people always talk about you're going to reincarnate. Don't come back at that point. But I think I come back every time we move from one age to the next one, as far as I can see, which is another reason I think I needed to write this trilogy.
You're one of the way showers for the new ages that are appearing on the planet. So what makes it the Aquarian? Is there a certain configuration? And of course, there's certain activations that go with those configurations for the Aquarian age?
Yeah, the Aquarian age, of course, is Aquarius, ruled by the planet Uranus. And so it takes a couple of 100 years to actually transit from one age into the next one. Although the nexus point of this transition has been, midpoint has kind of been 1998, and it's been like 1980 through 1930, 2035, 2034, something like that. And so we're at that real major turning point. And so what tends to happen is transits that have Uranus as a major factor tend to trigger a lot of stuff. And so that's what happened during 2021. We had 3 squares between Saturn and Uranus. And those 3 squares, the last one was the day before Christmas. And I think most people watching this had a pretty hard Christmas. I know I did.
Yeah.
Boy. Let's say yippee for the holidays. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you could dump the holidays right in the garbage can, judging by this year. So those 3 transits are complete. But then during 2022, they're very close all the way through the year. And these issues keep getting triggered and re-triggered because for people to change at a radical level, it takes a lot of different kinds of experiences, emotional experiences, political experiences. So we're having them all. And
Right, so what's the transit? Uranus is transiting what exactly?
well, what happened in 2021 was 3 squares between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn rules formation and creating structures, and then Uranus rules freedom. So all the way through 2021, we had a huge struggle between freedom and control. Anybody notice?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, could there have ever been a better creation to showcase this actual archetype than the COVID, what I call the COVID crap, but we'll call the COVID.
So where do you see this taking us?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we clearly have come to a point where it's time for the individual to step up to the plate. And it's interesting that the conflict and the transition is showing itself so profoundly through public health and through allopathic medicine. Because if you look at the last maybe 70 years, we go back to the 1950s, the 1960s, allopathic medicine has gradually just taken control of our lives. And people have been gradually conditioned to do certain medical testing, certain protocols, and they've been encouraged to use a lot of drugs and a lot of surgery and stuff like that, a lot of allopathic techniques. And so we are the ones who gave over our own power. You don't have to take a pill, and you don't have to necessarily do a surgery. Of course, sometimes, obviously, you do. And so naturally, now we're coming to a power play by allopathic medicine and big pharma that's even bigger than the one that's been developing since the 1950s, which is the attempt to force the vaccination of all people on the planet and have those vaccinations registered by artificial intelligence. And that's the struggle. And the only way out of that struggle is the individual. And every person who decides to do things their own way, whatever that is. I'm not advocating vaccinating or not vaccinating. It's just that each one of us has to make choices. And so what the struggle is really about is letting somebody tell us what to do. And if you watch this closely, the struggle against people telling us what to do is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, basically the other issue that the United States is facing this year is a Pluto return, where the planet Pluto returns to the US chart, the 1776 US chart when the states were created. And the United States is basically, according to astrology, set up for a revolution during 2022 and 2023. And it's not hard to see what's going to be causing the revolution. People should go into the cities and get out on the streets and notice all the demonstrations that are building, because people don't want to be told what to do by doctors or public health or anybody else. They want to live their own lives. So that's the struggle, and it's going to be very intense this year.
Is that the symbol of the Aquarian age, is taking people's control back over their lives? Is that what you say?
Yes, the sign Aquarius and the planet Uranus is the most freedom-seeking element in the astrological chart and in our solar system. Uranus is the planet that advocates freedom, and that's it.
So when does it really settle in? We're still in this transition. When does it really, drop in to that?
It's here, Alan. It's here now. You can see it in the things that are coming up in the culture, because Uranus rules technology, and
Right.
it rules artificial intelligence too. It rules all kinds of wild, creative, experimental things, and that's fine. But as human beings, the Saturn part of this dynamic is to get control of things from our own perspective and in our own lives.
Wow. So your book, the Revelations from the Source, what do you lay out there that we can learn as a collective and move forward in a new way?
Yeah, well, Alan, in my universe, I'm the author of The Pleiadian Agenda and Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, I know, which is my most original work. And the basic thesis of those two books is that we are capable of 9 dimensions of consciousness, but we have a tendency to only live in a couple of dimensions. We exist most of the time, especially right now, in the 3rd dimension, which is linear space and time and our solid world. And then we exist a lot in the collective mind, which is the archetypal realm and the realm of collective thought. Are we okay?
So
Yeah,
the
we're good.
trilogy that you wrote kind of parallels everything that's going on now, correct?
Well, yeah. And then we're back to the book. The question was, for any one of us, what can I do? Each one of us has some kind of special gift. Somebody's
I don't know why there's so much background noise here.
somebody's taking down a curtain. I can see it up in the corner next to
Okay.
Peter. Lane
Let's
curtain.
just mute. Can we mute everybody else, Sheila?
Yeah, I've got them muted.
Okay. So go ahead, Barbara. Sorry.
All right. So the reason I wrote the book is because all of us are capable of 9 dimensions of consciousness. And the definition of being conscious in 9 dimensions would be very Uranian and very free, because each dimension has certain qualities of information that you can utilize in order to enhance your life. And each one of them is critically important for high consciousness. And so I wrote the trilogy in order to show some very, very artistic and creative and smart people who have 9-dimensional consciousness. I wanted the reader to actually start to get into the consciousness of characters who were functioning in different dimensions. And the reason I went in that direction, I've written books about this. I've written, definitional left brain books about this concept. But in my experience, I used to teach a whole lot of workshops where we used to, Jerry and I used to, my husband, partner, we'd go all over the planet. activating 9 dimensions at sacred sites in Egypt and Mexico and Scandinavia, wherever. We just went all over the place. And so what we discovered is if people can experience different dimensions, then those dimensions start to open in their consciousness. And so then, of course, the natural place to go next was to go to fiction, where I could actually have the reader participate in 9-dimensional consciousness by reading a book. And I think I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't
But can
sure
you
I
talk
could.
about that? Can you talk about the 9 dimensions of consciousnness, what that actually looks like as we function in those
Mhm.
dimensional
Sure.
realities?
The first dimension is the center of the Earth, the iron core crystal in the center of our planet. And then our planet vibrates, the center of our planet vibrates in relationship, vibrates with all of the other bodies in the universe, the planets, the galaxies, the suns, the stars. We're all in vibrational resonance. Then the second dimension is the particular expression of this cosmic dynamic resonance with the whole universe between the iron core crystal and the surface of the Earth. So we're standing on top of the second dimension, and it's called telluric because that's where the volcanoes and the earthquakes and all that. By the way, that's where the viruses and microbes come from. And the second dimension has a lot to do with what's going on with COVID, but that's a complex topic.
Oh.
Third dimension is we're here right now, linear space and time. Fourth dimension is the collective mind that connects all of us. And so then what happens with the collective mind is that we all participated in it. And then sometimes what happens is a collective insanity can develop. And that's what's going on right now. What we're living in the middle of right now is a typical collective insanity. And it's very important to start to identify that and learn how to navigate that. Because if you're too caught in the fourth dimension, you're cut off from the fifth through the ninth dimensions. The fifth dimension is the heart, the opening of the heart. And so right now, people are having a terrible time because their hearts are being shut down by the intensity of the collective insanity. The sixth dimension is sacred geometry. And geometry is what creates all of the forms in our solar system and in the universe itself. Seventh dimension is sound. And the eighth dimension is the divine mind, divine consciousness. Call it God if you want to. Then the ninth dimension is time. And so one of the easiest ways to understand these dimensions is to go the other way, which is we're in the ninth dimension. And the question is, what is the issue of the moment? What is the timing of the unfoldment that we're in the middle of right now, which is what we're talking about on this show. And then that question goes into the eighth dimension, goes into divine consciousness, and then divine consciousness starts bringing energy in that starts giving us guidance for the realities that we're navigating, which is what we're all seeking right now.